Welcome to the Cockney Guide to Enlightenment podcast. My name's Stephen Rosen, and in this podcast we go beneath the surface of people's lives to find out what makes them tick. My own life I wrote about in this book, Lost in the Babylon. It's through childhood adversity, organised crime and a successful life as a businessman in the city. When I talk to people, we go beneath the surface of where they got to in their lives and we find out what really makes them tick. So if you want to follow me, connect to me with social media at Cockney Profit. And if you enjoy this podcast, please like it, subscribe or follow us and enjoy the episode. Welcome to the Cockney Guide to Enlightenment podcast with me, Stephen Rosen, and my guest today is Sonny Green. Sonny, how you doing?
Very good. Very good. Yeah, it's been a good start to the morning.
Brilliant. Really pleased to get you on the podcast. I kind of met you a few years ago, really.
Yeah, about 7 years ago, I'd say.
Was it really 7 years ago? Yeah, I can remember. I think you was just maybe buying your first van at the time.
Okay.
Yeah, I can remember you.
It'd be around that time.
You speaking about you was getting a van and you was going out and starting to do a little bit of the removals and stuff at the time. So yeah, that's kind of comes to mind. And the reason I wanted to invite you here is because, since that time I've kind of followed your journey a little bit on social media and kind of watched you get married and it's
been a journey, man.
It's a journey, and obviously we go and talk about where you come from, but just from my perspective, what I've seen is someone who's really in their integrity, and I know you're very good at promoting yourself. You're very good at what you do, brilliant at bringing your creativity into your work as well. But I think it was maybe a couple of years ago, and there was a group that I was kind of on the periphery. It was a WhatsApp group or something, and someone put something in there about there was I think it was a family down at Westcliff or something that was under threat that people was going to turn up and start.
I remember.
And start protesting or threatening them or something.
Last year.
Was it last year? I thought it was a bit longer ago.
It might be actually, but I think it was last year.
Yeah, and you was one of the people that turned up as far as I remember. I wasn't there myself, I was away, but you turned up and I thought, yeah, man, this guy's like really got some integrity about him, And recently you put out something, I think it was quite popular. It was one of your kind of spoken word poems.
Yeah, What England Means to Me.
What England Means to Me, yeah. And I listened to that and I thought, do you know what? We really need some voices like this.
Definitely, man.
Getting out into the public, and there's so many negative voices and so many people, using that agenda to kind of corral people.
Yeah, spread hatred, really. Yeah.
Absolutely. That I thought, I've got to invite Sonny on the podcast now.
Yeah, cool.
And here we are. So
pleasure to be here.
Thank you for coming.
Pleasure to be here.
I mean, do you want to let people know where you're from, where you grew up?
Yeah, so I'm from Southend. Not the posh part with the teeth and the tans, if there is a posh part of Southend. But from Southend. So that was a lyric out of our spoken word piece we wrote about Essex recently. So it's more directed to the other parts of Essex and Southend. But I grew up around the kind of between Bournes Green, Cluny Square and the Kersal, those sort of areas. That was my life. I actually went to nursery do you see where they've got the big 3 tower blocks in town, the Queensway estate? Yeah. That was the nursery there, which is now a food bank. We recently filmed a bit of a documentary in there about Southend nightlife, and we was talking about the poverty and stuff, and why nightlife in the UK is just completely almost non-existent or dying, and the death of Southend nightclubs, because I don't think there's one now. So that's why I went nursery. Got fond memories of nursery and growing up around Southend. I was born in 1994, so I'm 31 now. And the 90s in Southend was obviously quite different. The early 2000s, the 90s, a lot of pirate radio and all sorts of stuff going on. And yeah, that was it really. My dad moved here when he was 18. He got like ASBO'd from his area. He was in like Hertfordshire, North London, Hertfordshire, that kind of area. And he was in and out of Borstal, so was my mum. And basically they said like, you got to move to Southend. So he ended up getting a flat, funnily enough, just on Sandy Road, a few roads away from here.
Right.
And my mum was below and my dad was above, and they ended up like, you know, that's where it all sort of, that's where I come along, I think, shortly after that, yeah.
And that, you mentioned Cluny Square. I've not heard that for a while, but when I kind of first come to this area, I think it was round about 95, and that had a real kind of rough reputation around there. It was like a bit of a no-go zone, wasn't it, around that way?
I mean, I think around that time as well, it was super rough, but that's where, when I was a teenager, that's where I went to Cecil Jones. So from like, I think it was, we lived opposite on Eastern Avenue, which is like a stone's throw away from Cluny Square. And I from about 10 years old, from about 10 to, I suppose, 16, we lived there. And then my mum moved back onto the Curzon, which is where she lives now. But from about 10 to 16, I spent like, you know, most days in Cluny Square. That's where I made my first song. That's where I smoked my first spliff. That's where I bloody, do you know what I mean? I'd done everything there, and that was like, we made that home. And around that time as well, like, I think kids were still out on the streets and that, like, you know, there was 30, 40 of us there every night. It was like a thing, like there was a youth centre and it was like an active place. It wasn't like how it was now, in terms of people just seem to be behind their screens. There's a lot more. You got to think, it is, I always describe as like, my age was like, we was like the last generation to, you know, to grow up without screens, you know, because iPhones weren't out yet, right? iPhones come out shortly, like when I was about 17, 18.
Right, yeah.
So there was that, like, we grew up on like Blackberries and things like that, and that was like our kind of thing. We still had to like Bluetooth songs to each other, rather than, you know, we didn't have YouTube on our phones and that, like, that weren't a thing.
So that kind of, I mean, because that was my growing up was in the flats, basically.
Yeah.
You know, I grew up in the flats and a bit before you, and there was none of that.
Yeah, exactly. You know
none of that at all. But, you know, there was a real kind of sense of, connected
community.
Community.
Yeah.
Back in them days.
Yeah, and I feel like even that time, really, I think that was the last of it. You know, that was the last of it. Was my generation, like, you know, because I think it probably all stopped around the time, really, iPhones come out, and so I think you're looking like 2013, 14 onwards. That's when it kind of, things changed a lot, you know. And loads of things changed in general, just from now till then. Obviously, loads of stuff's changed as well. But now we're really coming into like some sort of dystopian, especially with like the rise of AI and everything.
Yeah.
Everything's just so different. But those times, we was definitely still out and about, causing mayhem, you know, jumping on and off of roofs, doing all sorts of mad stuff, being just kids growing up, playing football, messing around in the park. And then obviously things between like the year 8 and 9 summer holidays, so when I was like 13, 14, that's when my life kind of, that's when I kind of got into like crime and stuff, and started smoking weed every day and getting involved in drugs. And same time that I did start like my rapping and my music as well, and I recorded my first songs. And
so you always had like an element of creativity.
Oh yeah. Like before that, mate, I was top set for everything in school. Like I was always clever. I was always smart. Bit of context. I grew up, my home life was always troubled. So like both my parents were in active addiction. My mum's okay. My mum's the best mum ever, but she had a hard life, man. Like she was like grew up in an adopted family, and she went to prison quite young. You know, they was both in Borstalls, and they was both like growing up in like 70s generation, whereas like it was different, weren't it? But we didn't understand like mental health, and we didn't understand so many different things, and
it was different. And I think, you know, I mean, I grew up not like, well, I say my mum left when I was quite young.
Yeah.
When I was 8 years old, I lived in a pub, so my dad ran a pub in the East End.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of dysfunction there.
Yeah.
But you know, I've kind of come to understand, which, like, you know, what I'm hearing from you as well is that, you know, they was doing the best with.
Of course, yeah.
You know?
I mean, my mum's an absolute legend. Like, she's the best, and my dad is too. Like, I love my dad. He was a stonemason, and he was super talented and very, very powerful, beautiful, strong, gorgeous human being. But the disease of addiction just run rife, and he was trying to fill a hole. I mean, his dad died when he was 13. So, and my nan had my dad when she was 15. So my dad was 13 and my nan was 28. And my nan's beautiful, man. Like, she's so beautiful. So all the men in their area was and my dad was trying to defend, trying to stop all that. This is from, like, you know, from my dad's stories and that. She was also a bar manager in a pub. So my dad was only 13, so he grew up in a pub as well, yeah? And he was in the men's pool team. He used to tell me all these stories. He'd go, I was in the men's pool team when I was 14, and, you know, so he was drinking alcohol every day from a kid.
And that's, I mean, I love this background into your ancestry.
Yeah.
And just like a whole different way of life that kind of it's not really there anymore, as you said. You know,
I mean, pub culture is different.
It's transitioned into something completely different.
Yeah. So pub culture and all that stuff, it played a big part in my life. Like, when I was, so my nan, she carried on working in the pub. She worked in all the pubs in Southend, and I used to go and clean the pubs when I was 7, 8, 9 years old. And my nan would she'd clean the 3 pubs down the seafront. I'd go down the pub, and I used to love it because I'd just go down and I'd look for the money, the pound coins, the £2 coins, and I'd be there finding notes and be like, wow, my nan would pay me to do it. And I was just a little kid and still earning the money, and it was like, it was exciting, and I used to love it so much, you know. My nan, I'd always go to my nan's at the weekend, because my mum and dad split up quite young. I don't ever remember them being together, and I'll be at my mum's during the week, and then I'll be at my dad's at the weekend. But yeah, my dad was a full-time drinker, and you know, and he used to use like hard drugs, so like crack and heroin was kind of rife in his life. And unfortunately, that's what changed his life, because it seemed to all be going well until he picked up them sort of drugs, you know what I mean? Before that, he was doing well, like, you know, he had a good reputation and everything.
Well, it's hard to manage a functional life.
Yeah.
Using, and I use those drugs as well. I know, you know.
So and that played a part. That played a part in my life, obviously, because, you know, being a young man or a kid or whatever, your dad's so important, and he was always my hero. So, and I grew up kind of having to watch that pain and the how addiction changes you. And there was always like a battle. It was always like, because he'd always still try and be my dad. Like, he always, or not my dad, he would always try and be like the dad he wanted to be, you know? Like, so he'd come to my school plays, and he'd take me out and play football and that. You know what I mean?
I mean, that it's beautiful, and I love the way that you spoke about them with love and compassion and beauty, and you know, that type of influence. You said that around about 13, 14, you started changing, and, you know, you went into crime, and you started.
Mate, I was angry, man.
Yeah. I'm sure you was, but did you have like any kind of consciousness about where you was going with that, or was it just?
Do you know what? At one point, it was like, I felt poor. Like, I felt like we didn't have no money, and we didn't really. And I kind of was sick of just. I was angry, and I had a real hunger to be successful. And I had like a fire in my belly that was against normal society, really. So, you know, I got arrested when I was I think I was 13 or 14 in Oxford Street shoplifting. So we'd bunk the train from Southend, we'd go to Oxford Street, big group of us from Cluny Square, and we'd go ransack all the shops. And we stood out like a sore thumb because we're like a bunch of white youths, 13, 14, running around Oxford Street, in and out of all the shops. And then in one of them, we just got a tug like that, thrown in a back room. And yeah.
I mean, I really identify with that, how you express that, you know, just that need to succeed, but a different way.
Yeah,
you know?
but yeah, so, you know, I don't know what it was. It was just like, I didn't know really how to, and that's the thing. So I talk about this now. What I really could have done with is like a 40, 50 quid job a day or something like that. Like I could have got my teeth into, like a trade which would have still paid me like even 30, 40 quid at that age. Do you know what I mean? Just something where I could have. So I think years ago, what would have happened I'd have stopped going to school and I'd have probably went to work on a building site. Say if it was the 70s or 80s or whatever, maybe before, I wouldn't have been in school no more. I'd have just went and I'd have got stuck into some sort of trade and it would have probably been all right. But because we live in a society now where that's like child bloody slavery or something, you know, kids can't work basically. And you got to think it's only really been like the last 60 years. In Victorian times, loads of children worked. That was normal, right? So it's only
survival.
Yeah, survival. So it's only been
yeah.
like, it's like a modern thing where you can't work until you're like 18 or 16 plus or 15 plus, whatever it is.
But it sounds like, and when I say it sounds, I don't want to project my stuff onto you, but what I'm hearing is very similar story to myself where, you know, I thought, you know, there's to make it, you know, I chose a criminal lifestyle as well at a very young age because, you know, I was out at 15 selling drugs and going to nightclubs and, you know, wearing a suit and had plenty of money and it was like, you know, this is the way forward. I'm not getting involved in all of that stuff that all the society are doing. And there was, you know, looking back, that influence come from my role models, from the people around me, from my peers. And, you know, so, you know, for you to say, like, it would have been ideal for me to do this. I don't know if that would have, you know, if that would have been an option.
So, look, one, the opportunities weren't there, right?
Yeah.
Two, society doesn't provide the opportunities or offer the opportunity. And three, all of the money that was coming into my house seemed to be going out through drugs and alcohol. So I see all our money go into something. So my brain goes, well, what if the money's going out that way? It's going somewhere, right? It's got to come in that way. So that's why it kind of, you know, I went down that route as well. But at the same time, it's like what I was trying to get at is, if you want to stop like youth crime and like kind of like gang crime and all this, like young people getting involved in crime and hurting each other and all that, a lot of it stems from them not having an access to funds and access to money. So it's like to stop, because I done a bit of youth work with, so we used to run a thing called music mentoring, and social services and the police and YIPDAT, the young person's drug and alcohol team, would bring young people to me and we'd run mentoring sessions, we'd write music, we'd do stuff. I'd teach them how to kind of like be creative and that, yeah. Some of these kids were selling crack and heroin in Southend, like this is a few years ago. And I said, and I identified with some of their support workers and that, you know, this kid's grown up in poverty, he's got no access to funds, and the only way he can make money is through criminal enterprise, whatever that may look like, whether it's selling drugs or stealing, or, you know. And unfortunately, there's no other way where they can make any money at all legitimately. So most places, like you can maybe get like a waitressing job or a waiter's job, like, you know, but that suits young girls usually. They can work in cafes and stuff like that. But for the young men, what can they go do at the age of 14 to make money? Is there any jobs for them? Is there any jobs for them at all? They pretty much no. The answer is no. There ain't even a 30, 40 quid and 50 quid job. Fair enough, they could go around washing cars, something like that, you know, maybe, but it's not really like there ain't many options.
And do you feel like the pressures on them from just like
100%.
social media and the
not
way
even
that,
so, yeah, just 100%. Look,
Yeah.
you get to being 14, 15, 16. If you're like me, this is what. So I'm speaking from personal experience,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
I was 14. I stopped boxing at Southend pretty much about 14, 15, maybe around the age of 14. I started smoking weed, but before that I stopped boxing because of the financial pressure that was on my mum to even afford the classes, yeah? I didn't have no decent clothes, really. I felt so, like, broken and broke, and I didn't want to pressure my family I didn't want to put financial strain on my mum's single parent household, etc. It just felt uncomfortable, you know what I mean? And there was like a little process where it got to the point where I was like, right, you know, I'm just not gonna settle for being skint.
yeah.
I'm not, because by that time I could fight, right? I was a good boxer. I was kind of the same size I am now, pretty much, just skinnier. And I felt like a man. Like, I proper felt like a man, even though I was only 14, 15, but I felt like a man. I walked down the street, I looked men in their eyes, they'd look away. Do you know, that sort of shit? I was up for it, I was ready. And I got to the point where I was like, if I haven't got it, I'm going to take it. Like, and I'm just going to earn it, because I'm not settling for being like some sort of citizen who's poverty, and like I want to provide for my mum. So when I started getting involved with the street stuff, I started carpeting my house. We didn't have carpets in my house, mate. Yeah, I didn't have a nice TV. My mum used to pay £1 in the box for the TV to come on. This ain't normal behaviour. What's all that about? I'm not having this. Like, I didn't want that life. You know, I always knew that. I always had something inside me where I knew I was going to be someone. I knew I was going to achieve stuff and be wealthy. Like I say, I was top set for everything before then, even in year 6, like, you know.
So you consciously chose.
I consciously chose,
that trajectory of your life to
better myself.
And better yourself.
To try and better myself, that's what I and also, along with all that.
I mean, that's really interesting because a lot of, I suppose a lot of, you know, when I look back at my life and I speak to some people that look back at their lives, they're kind of quite in quite an unconscious trajectory based on all of that stuff, all of that conditioning, all of that circumstance, you know.
No, I was completely aware of what was going on.
Yeah. So, and I think I was as well. I think I chose to, this is the way I'm going to succeed.
Yeah.
And that, like you, that route was, the other routes didn't appeal to me. So, so I mean, you know, and do you know what? I kind of, I've been writing something and I was, in what I was writing, I was comparing like kids, like street kids like this to CEOs and directors. And when you kind of take off, you know, just that surface level of actually what they're doing, and you start looking at their motivations and their skills, you know, there's a lot of similarities.
Yeah, there's loads of transferable skills.
And the difference is the opportunity, which you're talking about. So I think it's really interesting that, you know, we come to this point of actually, you know, if there's a different opportunity there, but how that would come about, I don't know. You know, there's got
to be, right. So there's got to be something. So now, like for instance, a young person got brought into my shop the other day from one of the local churches. It's a really alternative church, to be fair. But anyway, it's my mate who's doing a lot of good stuff. But he's a Christian. He's got his own church, and he actually provides food for like thousands of people in Southend. But anyway, he brought a young person to me with their mum, and similar sort of position I was in, and this young kid wanted access. He wants access to funds, so I gave him a load of stuff that he can resell on like Vinted and online, and you can just do it for his mum's bank details, and then he can take all the pictures, and then the money will go into his mum's account and stuff like that. So nowadays I think there's more opportunities because of the online space where they can make money and create content, and everything's going that way. So, and obviously I'm big into my reselling, and I always was, by the way. I used to set up a stall outside my nan's house trying to sell stuff. I'd buy boxes of bric-a-brac from the auction. Like, my nan was always the most solid, and is still to this day the most solid person in my life, pretty much. My nan is like a rock. And if it wasn't for her, I would have definitely been in prison, or I would have been down. It wouldn't have been as easy, because no matter what, although it's like I've painted a bit of a hardcore picture of my childhood, mate.
Listen, it's
reality, it's reality.
It?
But if I ever needed a meal, my nan it was there. I never went hungry, and I never went without clothes or whatever. And if I asked my nan, she would have probably hooked it up. It was just, I
mean, I understand.
My nan was like, my nan's the boss, mate. My nan's the best. She's the best woman there is. Like, she's so good, you know what I mean? She's so solid, and she's been a widow twice, and she's lost her son, and she just, like, she taught me everything. She really helped me, and she helped me go to she put me into, like, when I was like, before the crime and all that, 10, 11, 12, she put me into, like, a youth theatres and stuff, Palace Youth Theatre, and I was always an entertainer, and I was always a creative, and I could always, like, when I was in year 4, I used to read books to the rest of my class. Like, that was my thing. It's always something. I've always loved words. I've always loved stories. I've always loved entertaining, making people laugh, and singing, and everything. All sides of it. It's always been at the root of it, and my nan's always supported me throughout the whole journey. So,
was there any kind of creativity in your family, like, from the history?
No.
So really,
not really.
So her just supporting you is something kind of different and new, and
and
she's seen something that
my whole family, my mum, my nan, and my dad would always tell me, no matter, they always showed me the most love, like, I've ever had. Like, every single one of them loved me more than words can describe. Like, one thing was in love, like, more rich than most people in that, like, 100%. If you were talking about love, like, we was billionaires, but the creative side, my mum is so charismatic, it's unbelievable. She walks in a room, like, she's 5'0", but everyone knows she's there. Like, it's one of them. And karaoke and things like that, that's her kind of thing, you know what I mean? But never really channeled it in a way.
Yeah.
She probably could have. She probably could have, should have, would have been a star, but because of her life and everything, it just didn't end up that way, right? And then my dad was more quiet and kind of thing, but he was more of an athlete. So that was that. But I'm conscious of time that we're still on my childhood as well.
So,
yeah. I could talk for ages about it.
I'm sure, but it's fascinating. But I think, I mean, what I'd really like to move on to is that transition for you. I mean, we didn't even get into the crime side, but you was at a kind of point where you was moving in towards that.
Yeah, so I was quite successful with that stuff, and before you knew it, I was making good money every day. And at the same time, I started rapping and that, and I wanted to invest my money, so I invested it into my music. So I started paying for studio time, and around that same time as well, obviously I was smoking a lot of bud, and I was doing other drugs as well, like party drugs and cocaine and MCAT, and when I was quite young, 15, something like that. And I also found out about, and that sounds mad, but a guy called Goodfella. His name's Pete, but Goodfella's his nickname. He was my kind of older cousin / uncle. You know, it's like his mate. He started telling me about, like, the Illuminati and that, and the New World Order and the powers of the world. Kind of conspiracy theories, but kind of like the way the banking system works and the way the world's set up, like, structurally, basically. And I kind of went down that rabbit hole, and I started rapping about that as well. And I brought out a few mixtapes: Urban Politics, Hippopolitics, and then When Words Found Music Speaks, but that was later on. But I started putting my money into studio time and into music, and that's what really changed my life, and that's what really got me out of Southend and that crime stuff. and it got me away from, it moved me away basically. So when Words Found Music Speaks come out in the first of the first 2012, and through that's when I first got my first paid gig in Hackney in Dawston at a club called Passing Clouds, and from there my life changed drastically.
Yeah, so that's I mean, it's great that, you know, what I'm hearing is you're taking your entrepreneurial skills there of how you're making money, investing in yourself.
Yeah.
And it sounds like there's also some kind of big transition of you know, becoming conscious of, like, you don't particularly want to go in that direction fully.
Yeah.
But, you know...
yeah, so realistically, even the music I was making was kind of talking about, like, the world and society, and I'd done songs called Society's Lost Souls, and I think the first time I was in the Echo, I wrote a song called Timmy Shine, which was about domestic violence, and I went into Belfairs, funnily enough, to perform Timmy Shine, and I performed it for Every Year Group. It was for the Dove Project, and I released it as a single, and all the money went to the Dove Project. This is when I was 16. So even though the music could have been funded from stuff I might have been doing on the street or whatever at the time, years ago, we're talking, like, you know, 15 years ago, but it still had a conscious element. It still had, like, a social justice conscious element to it. And I got kicked out of school when I was, well, say kicked out, left, whatever, loads was going on. Police used to come into my school for me at certain points. I got arrested for graffiti. I was really into hip hop culture, the whole of it. So graffiti was a part of it, and all sorts of stuff. Anyway, they basically, it was. I still had, like, a social element to it, and even hip hop in itself and rap music, like the roots of it, the foundations of it, is still kind of, like, about social injustice and social justice and what's wrong with the world. So I was getting that involved in my music, and for me, when Timmy Shine was a great song I could write a story about. So, you know, even though I never really see domestic violence at home, obviously my mum and dad split up, my mum never really had, like, another man in the house and all that. She was solid like that in a sense. She just didn't believe in like that, and I was such a crazy young man. It wasn't probably good really to mix it up. So I never really experienced domestic violence, but I was always aware of it, and I was always you know, conscious of that whole kind of thing. So I wrote a song about it, and that song actually done really well, and I put it on that mixtape.
Whose experience did you use to write that? Did you just collectively kind of tune into what was going on?
Yeah. So there was a few people at my school, one even from primary school, and I felt really sorry for this kid, man. And I used to go around his house quite a lot, and his dad used to beat up his mum, man, bad. And again, back then, it was like everyone knew it was going on, but no one said nothing. It was weird. Do you know what I mean? It's weird.
So it was first-hand kind of...
You know.
Experience, yeah?
Yeah, and it was like... Yeah. So there's quite a... Look, when I think about it, there was probably quite a lot, actually, of people I know, a lot of women I know, some family and close friends and people that the fellas was a bit handy with them and all that, you know what I mean? Back then as well, I just think the early 2000s, late 90s, I just think it was just more like that. People was a bit more, there was a lot of domestic violence, I think. I'd like to think that now in 2025, we've progressed a lot in that sort of area. I feel like people are more aware.
Yeah.
I know it still goes on.
It was something that you come into your consciousness.
Yeah. And it was something that I always felt passionate about because I was always brought up it like, you know, I was always brought, my mum was so powerful, man. Like if her friend got beat up by the geezer or whatever, my mum would want to go do them and that. Like my mum was like proper on it, old school.
Well, it sounds like, you know, you had a real sense of social consciousness.
Yeah, just social
well.
consciousness and people that are vulnerable, defending people that are vulnerable, man.
Which goes back to that story of you showing up, where I introduced you, you know, of noticing that about you, you know, of standing up. And
I really don't like, I really don't like bullies, really, you know. Even though there's probably been times in my life where I've probably took it a bit too far, like with jokes and banter and all that when I was a kid especially, and, you know, but I'd never ever want to like bully people, you know what I mean? I'd always want to stick up for people, especially if they can't defend themselves.
I kind of, I mean, I get that sensitive nature of yours. And it's kind of, in a way, at odds with how you grew up and where you grew up. And
my dad was very much like that. We'd get people knock on our, when I was, because basically, when I was at my nan's at the weekend, my dad would be around, and people used to knock on my nan's door and with like black eyes and that, and bloody, they'd been beat up, they'd had their drugs took off them, and I'd ask my dad to go sort it out, and he would bloody put his trainers on, and he'd go out and, I wouldn't see him for a few hours, you know what I mean? It was like a weird world. My dad was always had a heart for that as well, so I think it's inherent. I think that he taught me that, and I think it might just be in our blood that we just, don't know, man, we're just like defending people.
I mean, it's we absorb stuff from our parents and from our grandparents
and
our
DNA, for sure.
Yeah, for sure. And it's really interesting that, you know, I love the fact that, you know, that's starting to come out in not only in your life but in your music and where you're putting your social consciousness, and you obviously at this point you're still in criminality, you're still using drugs, so there's a lot going on, isn't there? You know, it's a huge lot going on.
And I think I was trying to clean my image up of myself at that time, especially trying to be a bit more professional. When I'd done that collaboration with the Dove Project, I was only 16, so I wasn't aware of it, but I was definitely trying to do something. So, but there was, like I said, there was so much going on, and so much that people weren't aware of, because I never really shared all this stuff that I've shared about my home life. I never ever shared till I was an adult. So no one knew. None of my friends really knew. They was aware, but we never spoke about it. You know, I never shared it really at school. No one knew about this stuff. It wasn't a public thing. And it was only...
I think in that environment, that's part of the code.
Whether
it's a code or not, but that's how it is. You know, we grew up in that sense of this, you know, this doesn't get discussed. And I mean, from where I grew up, you know, there was no...
Yeah, you don't talk about stuff like that.
Exactly.
It's just happening and you just crack on. So, but what happened, the big turning point was, so basically, like I said, I got into that kind of conspiracy, conspiracy, it's not really a conspiracy anymore. It's like common knowledge about like the global elites and the billionaires and everything, how it's all set up. Anyway, so I become aware of a lot of that stuff, and a lot of the stuff that we were speaking about then has happened now. Anyway, and I was writing songs about that. Occupy St. Paul's happened, and I actually protested at Occupy St. Paul's. So I went up there. There's videos of me on YouTube performing at Occupy St. Paul's when I was 16, and I had lyrics about kind of like the injustice and the gap between these people in you know, higher society and our society where I come from. So, and the lyrics was going down really, really well, man. I got a video of me performing in front of 1,000 people outside of St. Paul's, and I'd have my CDs that I was selling. And I started selling these CDs, right? I started busking. I started making money off of me performing in London outside St. Paul's. There's literally, if you type in like Sonny Green St. Paul's or SGB St. Paul's, you'll see videos of me like performing there as a kid, yeah. And I met a band called Will and the People there, and all these artists, man, all these creatives and artists that weren't from my area. And around a similar time, that's when I got booked for Passing Clouds. I met the owner of the venue called Eleanor, and she paid me to do this show with my mate Ags, who I'm still friends with, and we got paid to perform these kind of conscious hip hop tracks talking about the world, and we was like a voice, you know, for like the youth of working class kind of England, I suppose. And during that time, she offered me a place to live in Hackney. So I moved to Dorset when I was like 16, 17. I moved up there, and I had a room in this building that she basically squatted, but we had internet, we had house phone. It was like a legitimate kind of squat, kind of like guardianship like they have now. She's like a pioneer of that. And we was into like growing our own food, and I was working with a lot of Jamaican artists and African artists, Afro-Latin artists, people like Williams Cumberbatch and Kush, and Moroccan artists like Simo Lagnawi. I'm so sorry if I'm pronouncing your name wrong, brother. And these guys, even to this day, are some like Simo is like the best Moroccan artist. He plays the traditional Moroccan instruments. There's videos of me again performing live for these guys, jamming with them, and I'm really soaking up culture now, and I'm really like coming out of Southend kind of small town mentality, and my mind is just blowing up. I'm still you know, smoking, blazing a lot of weed, but it's kind of like social drug. That was kind of like the bridge really between me and these kind of world artists, is that, yeah, he's a young English kid, but he's bloody, he'll sit and he'll smoke and chill with us, and I drink rum.
Must have been really exciting.
Mate, it was unbelievable.
To be stepping out of that world that you've described into something completely different.
Man, yeah.
So, and the transition as well, because, you know, I don't know, but I think there's a lot of people in that world that come from different places. So different cultures, and with different ideas and different experiences of life, and
different rhythm.
different rhythm. But, you know, was there any sense of like, obviously you was growing as an artist, but was there any sense of any sort of change within you? Massively. Feel like massively different happening?
I lost a lot of I didn't really want to like all the real anger, like the real violence. I think all that left me. I didn't want to fight people no more, really.
Right.
I didn't have a massive chip on my shoulder. I think that violent side, I think I really got on a peace one, man. Like peace and love, baby. Like I really went for that.
It sounds like, just being around that energy from those people.
Yeah, from the artists and the musicians. And
they've got a kind of, just a different energy to tap into. And
a lot of it's like, you know, proper, real roots and culture and reggae music, and like also just like the social element of it. I realised that different concepts, different spiritual concepts, you know, about being the change, and if I wanted the world to stop being violent and greedy, and that I had to stop being like that, and so you know,
it's about practicing those principles.
Yeah, and it stopped being about the clothes and stuff and the money necessarily, and it started being more about like this kind of mission to change the world, really, if I'm honest. So
and I think, you know, in my observation of how things go, I mean, anger, you know, especially when you've got no access to any other tools, anger's, you know, something that it's easy to come by. And I think when we remove the anger or maybe, you know, expel the anger, then there's a deeper sense of like, you know, it sounds like there was a lot of wounding there, a lot of pain to kind of, you know... It
was just frustration, wasn't it? So for me, before anger comes frustration. So like you're frustrated and you get angry. Like that's basically what was going on. So I was frustrated because I didn't have an outlet for my expression and my voice maybe, and I didn't have an outlet to raise finances. And then I realised that I could raise money legitimately through my art.
Yeah.
So I could kill two birds with one stone, and that's what I started doing. I started getting paid to perform and do my music, and now I'm getting older anyway. So suddenly, and then now I've got my CDs. I sold 10,000 CDs in 2012.
Well done, mate.
You know, I went to like 6 or 7 different festivals, maybe more than that, and mate, I really started blowing up as a creative. And what happened was, I realised that my rap stuff wasn't getting as much love as some of my spoken word stuff, so I started writing more poetry. So before I'd perform, so I'd go to open mic nights, because every night I was like, right, I need to sell some CDs, I need to perform. So I'd go to open mic nights in and all over London, especially around like Shoreditch, Hackney, Camden, like those sort of areas. And I would perform a cappella versions of my hip hop tunes, and then I started writing poetry and spoken word, which I'd take the beat away, and then I'd, and one particular piece, which was a One Taste video, which I filmed on top of Balham, a pub in Balham, forgot the name of it, but it's quite a well-known venue. I performed that, and that just went viral, got like a silly amount of views. I think it got shared on loads of different people's profiles, big people, people like David Icke and that shared it, even though it wasn't as hardcore as his views, but it was like talking about like the way the world is and people not talking to their neighbours and stuff. It started like, we're spiritual beings. Inside us there's an energy that's invincible. In our minds there's morals and principles, incredibly strong emotions. To some they seem invisible. Some of us stand so strong with wide smiles, but inside we are miserable. Some of us have a spiritual significance beyond human understanding that defines mystical. Now some of us stand by and watch the leaders of our planet kill lower developed countries, rob lower developed countries for their minerals. Me, I decide to stand up for what's right and get lyrical. Like that was it. There's loads of it's like a 3-minute piece, all right? But I was 18 and I was saying this stuff, and when I was 18 I was like 9.5 stone gaunt.
Did you, I love that stuff, and where do those lyrics come from?
I don't know, man. They just come through, mate. I just write that stuff,
that's a really interesting part for me, because I've been changing for a long time in my life, and accessing spirit and accessing some of the stuff that you're talking about in those lyrics, and for me it's just been a real kind of process of learning to move stuff out of the way, probably moving like the stuff that wasn't serving you, finding that you made room for more stuff, with your music. But
I've always felt really spiritual, man. That sounds mad. I've always felt quite connected to God, you know what I mean? And really, even when I was going through a lot of stuff, I just really felt like, I always felt like I was, like, not all was as it seems physically, and there was always something going on somewhere, and I always felt looked after as well. But I'll be honest with you, even throughout those really dark periods of my life and those teenage periods of my life and stuff, when I've been in really bad situations, I've always felt that I'm gonna be all right, and I've always felt because I'm being looked after,
I mean, what I'm sensing here is where I'm at in life as well, and I sense where you're at in life, and I think it's just such a valuable thing that you say with conviction, I always had that. And it's like, my view of how things are, we come here with that. Whatever it is, all different for each person. Yeah. But then we get kind of, life happens to us and we get things put on us and we absorb stuff from generations before us, and we get lost, Yeah,
well, I think I don't even think about absorbing. I think it's already there, like it's in our genes, right?
Yeah,
so
DNA, whatever,
it's literally here. Like we are our ancestors. Like we are, when it goes right back to wherever. So you can think we've all been through so much stuff, and it's mental. But yeah, so that was that journey anyway, and it was a powerful one. And during that time of that spoken word, it was a wilderness festival. I was supporting, I was involved with a thing called Secret Cinema, and at Secret Cinema it's like a live immersive experience, and they put on shows like so funny enough, because I worked with them, I got some tickets. I took my mum there around this time to Bugsy Malone at the Limehouse Theatre.
Sonny, you've done so much stuff. We can just burn the podcast up with all the stuff you've done. What I want to really hear is who's the man, where all this creativity comes from? How do you tap into it? Where do you really, because that sense of, them lyrics at that age, it's just, they're brilliant, and but it's like there's something else going on that I feel that you're.
Yeah, but I'm not sure what.
You're not sure what it is.
It's just who you are, right? So I just write stuff, man. If I feel passionate about something, I'll pick up the pen and I'll write it and I'll create it, and I'll just go for it, bro.
You do, but you do it in such a way that it's like you're a messenger. I feel that you're a messenger. I feel that we come here with different purposes and we don't always know what they are. But what I see and what I really feel is powerful for you is that, you know, you're carrying some element of spirit and you're trying to interface with a different world out there and put that out there. And maybe you're not even, you know, maybe it's difficult to kind of really sense into that stuff. But I think, you know, just that last piece that you put out about my version of
what England means to me,
what England means to me. I mean, you're just touching into some really, you know, kind of basic stuff that everyone can feel and access. Really.
And some people don't. I mean, there's an opposing view because obviously some people don't like what my angle on certain things because some people think that, like, I suppose what England means to me is more about trying to unite people really and spread love, and it's got a bit more of a, you know, and so some people don't like that, you know. And the world, I don't think the world necessarily likes it either because it's divide and conquer, innit, you know. And I'll be honest, so like my if we're talking about like my spiritual journey now,
and I think that is in. I mean, I see a spiritual journey within those lyrics and within what you're doing.
And I try and keep it like God-centered. So for me it's all about God. I feel a strong connection to my faith, you know. And it was only recently, about 3 or 4 years ago, where I kind of went on where I went on a journey with God and with the Lord. I started looking at Jesus and what he represented when he was here and what he represents. And I just feel that love, you know, that love, and that's what it should be about. And we shouldn't be divided, and we shouldn't be hateful, and that fundamentally human beings, if you're here and you're human, that you're not better or worse than anyone else. And we shouldn't be hateful really. And hate is like, if you're filled up with hate and with fear and all that, then you're just going to be, it's self-destructive in itself, you know.
I think and that kind of, I mean, that's kind of, you know, what I feel about you, and that's why I really wanted to get you on this podcast, because I feel that, you know, you can take that energy and you can interface it with being the entrepreneur, with being the performer, with being all of this other stuff, and it's like, because it's not accessible to a lot of people, is it?
Yeah, and I think especially like white working class people, we are really kind of we can be quite ignorant. We can be quite easily influenced by mainstream media. We can be quite easily influenced by all sorts of madness, and also I think we get represented as well by people that are not necessarily that open-minded. So there's some people that represent, like, people might see me and you on the street and they might label us with something that we're not, you know. And it's quite easy to be quickly thrown in like that kind of like right wing or whatever they want to call it, that kind of bracket. And the world's so quick to label people, and everything's a lot more rich than that, a lot more diverse, a lot more colourful than what people want to make out. And I was saying it to the other day, I know people on the far left that have these views, but they're, you know, that they can be still filled with like hate. I know people on the far right that have mad right-wing views, but they'd lend you $1,000 if you asked them for it, you know what I mean? It's like, but again, they still got weird views. Things are really complex. I know people that come across racist, but their wives are black. You know what I mean? It's like, it's just like really, everything's so different. I know people that are like, you know, it's just mad, man. It's so different to what people want to push in agendas and stuff. And I just feel that it's really important to always remain open-minded, compassionate, to not judge people by what you see in the newspapers or even on social media or anything until you meet them. So if people ask me my opinion on certain people that I haven't met, I'll be like, I don't know. I've never met them. I don't know them people, you know. I've never met bloody Keir Starmer. Like I don't know what he's like. I've never looked him in the eyes. I've never spoke to him. I don't know the geezer.
I mean, that's like going back to what I said earlier on about, you know, standing in integrity.
You got to have integrity, man.
Integrity,
Yeah. So it's like
of not needing to be what you're not.
Yeah. I don't have no opinion, or I can't speak about people that I genuinely don't know, and we don't know what's going on behind closed doors. We don't know who's, especially like in politics and stuff like that. It's such a game. It's such a game. Smoke and mirrors, and it's like a pantomime. You don't know, and to be honest, it's probably not even worth getting caught up in too much, you know, because life's too short to be.
It's a distraction.
It's a distraction from the now and from the present moment. And even like for my journey, what I'm on at the moment, like even the scriptures I read says, you know, don't worry about tomorrow because tomorrow will worry about itself. It's like focus on today.
And all of that stuff coming through that whole kind of spirit. I love that you always had a sense of that around you know, and now, as you just spoke to, you've found a different access to that through your church. But it's
through
all
being a Christian,
it's all tuning into
a loving higher power,
and also just kind of moving away from the illusion that
it's all about you. Yeah,
it's all about us, or we're all different, and finding all these differences, because people take refuge in all of that, and I believe that they make themselves feel, you know, powerful in you know, comparing or themselves to others, and sometimes that can work the other way. They can feel less than, you know. But I think it's really important that people, you know, listen to these examples of what you're giving, and actually find out who am I? What are my true values? And I don't need to be projecting stuff that I'm not, or, you know, looking for popularity where, you know, just for the sake of, you know, propping up an ego, a win or lose kind of ego scenario. You know, it's...
and the people that are, again, they're just on their journey, aren't they?
Everyone's on their journey. Yeah, I'm not being judgmental, but I'm just saying that I think, you know, what I hear from you and what I see from you looking from the outside is a man who's very capable of doing a lot of stuff. You're a businessman, you're an entrepreneur, you're a performer, and, you know, at the core of it, what I see is like Sonny's spirit is coming through all of this, you know?
Yeah, I've got a big heart for people and for community, but at the same time, mate, I have my bad days. 1 minute I could, you know, there's moments where I lose touch with that goodness, you know, and I get dragged out and drawn out and all that stuff. But I always try to. That's why, like, for me, having the Lord as my example has helped me a lot, because like he washed his disciples' feet, you know what I mean? And if I my main issue, and what I can do a lot, is I can get a really my ego can run wild, and I can get a feeling of like feeling better than people.
Powerful,
yeah. And when that happens, that's when I always need to try and remember to like remain humble and all that.
What kind of tools do you use to get back into integrity when you're feeling that? And then it's like a human thing,
so humility. So basically, that's why I found a lot of strength in knowing that I'm not the guy, basically, and that God is, and that I am like a servant of the Lord, of God. Like I'm here to serve others and to love people and to be selfless, and that it's really important that I give God all the glory in things that when I achieve stuff, and that I work for something that's more than just me, because I don't find any real contentment in that, and I feel that I don't want to just be selfish. I don't want to just feed my flesh, and I don't want to get lost in that chaos of the world where it's all about like property and prestige and money. And I've learned all this stuff through recovery, through getting engaged with, like, you know, through that side of things. That's what's helped me on my journey. And then obviously as well with the Bible and with God as well, all that's helped my journey. And I love it. It's been so good. It's been so good for me, because it's really easy to be like that poem that it got 9 million views, yeah? And it's really easy for me to go, right, what England means to me, I wrote that, I done this, it's how I perform, it's because I'm so good at it, yeah? And like, that's not really what it's about, man. Honestly, that come out of nowhere, that piece. And even that poem that we spoke about earlier that I wrote, I just like it. 1 minute I'm writing it, next thing it's happened. Like it's like I wake up the next day, I think, I don't even know.
You know what? I my observation on that is that I really love what you said, and that's why I invited you onto the podcast, because I feel that you are someone who is of service to other people.
You have to be, man.
And you know that you don't know where that come from. I think that access comes from spirit.
Yeah.
And just that, just
tapping into it.
Yeah, sometimes we're here and we can just like grab it down and we transform it through our own experience of being here and then put it out and release it. And you know, it's a difficult journey to do that, I think, and to have success in doing that, and then to kind of really remain grounded and humble with that. And I think it's human nature that we get pulled all over the place by different energies, you know, internal and external.
Yeah, for sure.
And but you know what, Sonny, fucking hell, man, got a lot of respect for you, brother.
Thank you.
I really have.
You too, my bro.
I really have.
And also, what I was going to say on that note was that I think when it comes to creativity and sharing your work, especially like whether it's like putting yourself out there, even the podcast, and even talking and communicating and sharing what you got to say, I think it's super important to not care what other people think about you. Yeah, because if you care too much, then that's what stops it. And when I do writing workshops and creative workshops, that's what I always like. The best thing you can do is not care what other people think, and then secondly, not really hold yourself in too much high regard and care what you think, and just do it and just put it out and just you know, obviously analyze it and make sure it's true to you, how you feel and you, but just do it and put the action in, and that then you get results, man. You
get results, and I think, you know what, the way that I kind of always frame this podcast of what I do here is, you know, we have these conversations and then I release them. Yeah. And
whatever happens.
Yeah, I kind of relinquish any need to control the outcome of where it goes or how it works out, and just trust that actually, you know, I've done my part and you've done your part in this, and we're putting something out, we're putting an energy out into the world. And
it's the serenity prayer, ain't it?
And I love that, of just, you know, knowing that, this was my part in it. I take agency for my part and then release it to where it goes and how people receive it or perceive it, you know.
It's up to them.
It's out of our hands. Yeah. Sonny, that's a great place to leave it. I just want to, before we finish, mate, because we're running out of time, how can people, I mean, I know you're out there, but, you know, just let people know where to follow you. Or
my Instagram, at Sonny Green UK, Steptoe and Mum on my TikTok, and my YouTube. That's like my wheeling and dealing and stuff as well on my YouTube. But find me on there. But especially, and Sonny Green on Facebook, and I use those 3 platforms mainly. Yeah.
And I just want to mention as well, you got a business as well. Yeah. You know, obviously.
So we got the Southend Furniture Warehouse. Yeah. It's the biggest second-hand shop in Essex. Come down, buy a second-hand sofa off me if you want. And we've got a house removals company as well, Southend House Removals. So we move people all over the country, all over Europe. You can call me up, and we can manage that logistically and sort that out for you too.
A man of many talents, a true entrepreneur, and a true creative.
Thank you.
Source, you know. It's been brilliant, Sonny. Thanks very much. Lots of love, brother.
Nice one,
Lots of love.
Cheers, geezer.
And just to remind everyone, if you enjoyed the podcast, just follow and like or send some comments in. Sonny and I would really love to.
Yeah, I'll reply to all the comments under here, yeah, so make sure you do that.
Yeah.
Let's have a conversation.
Love to get your engagement because that's what it's about. So lots of love, everyone. Cheers.
Take care.